The massive council chamber fell silent as Representative Day finished his presentation. He stood alone at the center of the grand hall, surrounded by delegates from across the galaxy. The holographic display behind him showed the tiny yellow star and its unremarkable planets, the long-abandoned birthplace of humanity. "We cannot dismiss the historical significance of Sol System," Day insisted, his voice echoing through the chamber. "The artifacts suggest technological capabilities far beyond what our records indicate." High Counselor Rin waved a dismissive hand. "The Tauri Collective's fascination with human relics borders on religious superstition. Humans vanished 250,000 years ago. Whatever remains in that system is nothing but space debris and ruins." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. The 12 dominant species had long since divided the galaxy between them, and this forgotten corner represented little more than a historical footnote. "The motion to annex Sol System into Draken territory stands," announced Rin. "Survey teams will catalogue any artifacts of scientific value before terraforming operations begin." Far from the political machinations of the Council, deep within Mercury's molten mantle, something stirred. Buried sensors designed to function for millions of years detected the energy signatures of approaching vessels. The quantum computers processed this information, comparing it against parameters established long ago. External presence detected, non-human signatures, territorial incursion, probable. The ancient systems began their long-programmed response. Power flowed through circuits untouched for 250,000 years. Transmission arrays aimed themselves at distant points throughout the solar system, sending coded pulses that human ears could never have perceived. On Mars, beneath the rust-red surface, hidden reactors hummed to life. In the asteroid belt, camouflaged installations began powering up defense systems. Jupiter's moons, particularly the ice-covered Europa, received the signal and initiated deeply buried protocols. But it was beyond Saturn, in the distant reaches of the solar system, where the most dramatic awakening occurred. Neptune's swirling, blue clouds parted as something massive rose from its depths. The planet had served as the perfect hiding place, its atmospheric pressure and chemical composition preserving what lay within for eons. The vessel that emerged dwarfed anything in the Council's armada. Its hull gleamed with a metal alloy unknown to current galactic science, marked with symbols no living species could translate. Across its bow, in faded but still visible lettering, "Eternal Vigilance." Inside the vessel, systems activated in careful sequence. Fusion reactors stabilized, artificial gravity established, and life support initiated, though there were no biological entities aboard to benefit from the oxygen-rich atmosphere. Instead, quantum processors powered up, running diagnostics on systems that had remained dormant for longer than most civilizations had existed. At the ship's core, a consciousness awakened. "Status report," it commanded, though no one was present to hear. D. Ship's AI responded instantly, all systems operating at 94% efficiency. Minor degradation in Sensory Array 7 and starboard propulsion. Self-repair initiated. Fleet activation signal transmitted and acknowledged. The consciousness, once a man named June, processed this information. He was neither truly alive nor truly artificial. Like the others, he had uploaded his consciousness into the ship's systems before humanity's great departure. He retained his memories, personality, and most importantly, his mission. "Show me what's happening," he ordered. Displays illuminated around him, revealing real-time imagery from throughout the solar system. Council vessels approached Earth and Mars, their intentions unclear, but their presence unwelcome. Smaller scout ships had already begun landing procedures near the ruins of old human cities. "They're earlier than predicted," June noted. The models had suggested another 1,000 years before the galaxy's powers turned their attention to humanity's abandoned home. "The Vigilance Fleet awakening sequence is at 23%, reported the ship's AI. "Estimated time to full deployment, 17 hours. June considered the options. Protocol dictated observation before action. Maintain stealth systems, track all intruder vessels, prioritize defense of Europa containment facility. Beneath Europa's Thick ice sheets lay humanity's greatest secret, millions of unmodified humans in stasis chambers, preserved until the time was right for their return. The digital guardians like June had watched over them for thousands upon thousands of years, waiting patiently as the rest of humanity transcended physical form and departed for realms beyond normal space. Aboard the Council survey ship approaching, Mars Science Officer Hana noticed an anomaly in her readings. "Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy fluctuations throughout the system," she reported, frowning at her instruments. "They appear to be communicating with each other," the captain scoffed. "Sensor ghosts. This system has been dead for millennia." But Hana wasn't convinced. She adjusted her equipment, trying to isolate the strange signals. "There's something happening on Neptune, massive energy spike." Before she could finish, alarms blared across the ship. The tactical officer's voice rose. "In panic. Unknown vessel detected. It's enormous." On their view screen, the majestic form of eternal vigilance emerged fully from Neptune's clouds, its ancient engines flaring with blue-white fire as it accelerated toward the inner system. Humanity's ancient fleet was waking up, and the galaxy was about to remember why they had once been feared and respected across the stars. Hana gripped the edge of her console as the captain ordered evasive maneuvers. The massive human vessel had appeared seemingly out of nowhere and now hung silently in space before them, its dark hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. "All weapon systems online," barked the captain. "Prepare to—" "Wait," interrupted Hana, studying her readings. "It's not powering weapons. I'm detecting a transmission." The bridge crew fell silent as the ship's speakers crackled to life. What came through wasn't a voice, but a sequence of tones and patterns, mathematical in nature. "It's a primer," Hana realized, her scientific curiosity overpowering her fear. "Like the old first contact protocols, it's teaching us how to communicate." The captain frowned. "But humans have been gone for 250,000 years, finished Hana. "Yet here we are." Over the next hour, the primitive communication evolved rapidly. The human vessel, identifying itself as Eternal Vigilance, projected holographic images into space between the ships. Simple geometric shapes gave way to more complex concepts, then rudimentary language. "It's requesting a meeting," said Hana eventually. "It wants us to come aboard." The captain looked at her like she'd lost her mind. "That's out of the question. We should pull back and wait for council reinforcements." "With respect, sir," Hana said firmly, "this is potentially the greatest discovery in galactic history. If there are humans aboard that ship..." After heated debate, a compromise was reached. A small team would visit: Hana, 2 security officers, and a communications specialist. Their shuttle approached the enormous vessel, dwarfed by its scale. A section of the hull simply disappeared, revealing a hangar bay large enough to house their entire survey ship. Inside, the air was breathable but strangely sterile. Lights activated along the floor as they walked, guiding them deeper into the ship. The corridors were designed for human proportions, but felt empty, unlived in. "There's no one here," whispered one of the security officers, his hand resting on his weapon. Hana shook her head. "Someone's operating this ship." They were led to a large circular chamber. As they entered, the room transformed around them. The blank walls became transparent, showing a perfect rendering of space outside. In the center stood a man, or rather something that looked like a man. His appearance flickered occasionally, revealing his true nature, a holographic projection. "Welcome aboard Eternal Vigilance," he said in perfect galactic standard, his voice warm and natural. "I am Jun, Guardian of Sol." The communications specialist stepped forward. "How do you speak our language? It evolved long after humans disappeared." Jun smiled. "We've been listening, learning, for longer than you might imagine." He gestured, and seats formed from the floor. "Please, make yourselves comfortable. You have questions. So do I." Cautiously they sat. Hana couldn't take her eyes off the human simulation. It was perfect in every detail, from the subtle creases around his eyes when he smiled to the way his chest rose and fell with simulated breath. "Are you an artificial intelligence?" she asked. "Not exactly," Jun replied. "I was born human on Earth over 300,000 years ago. Before what your historians call the departure, I chose to transfer my consciousness into this digital form. The security officers exchanged nervous glances, but Hana leaned forward, fascinated. You're saying you're actually human? A digitized human mind? One of many, June confirmed. We are the guardians, the caretakers. When humanity faced the choice between biological evolution and technological transcendence, we found a third path. With a gesture, he transformed the room again. They were suddenly floating above Europa, watching as the icy surface became transparent, revealing vast underground structures. Millions of unmodified humans, Jun explained, preserved in stasis. Those who chose to remain in their original form, waiting for a time when the galaxy might welcome them again. And the rest? Asked Hana. Jun's expression turned distant, almost wistful. They transcended physical form entirely, moved beyond the constraints of normal space-time. They exist now in ways I cannot fully describe with your language. But you stayed behind, Hana observed. Why? To protect those who sleep, to maintain the fleet, and to watch. Jun turned to face her directly. Your council believes human technology was primitive compared to modern standards. This misconception was deliberate. With another gesture, he showed them historical records, carefully edited and altered through millennia. The true extent of human advancement had been systematically erased from galactic history. But why would anyone hide this? Asked Hana. Fear, replied Jun simply. Several elder species recognized humanity's potential. Our rate of technological advancement was unprecedented. Rather than risk conflict, they chose erasure. The communications specialist frowned. You're claiming the Elindri, among others, nodded Jun. They've maintained this deception for 200 millennia, and now your council moves to claim our home system, triggering the awakening protocols. Hana felt a chill run down her spine. How many ships like this one are there? Jun's holographic form walked toward the window. Outside, where empty space had been moments before, dozens of massive vessels shimmered into view as they dropped their cloaking fields. This is just the Sol Defense Fleet, he said quietly. The full Vigilance Fleet includes thousands of vessels stationed throughout the galaxy, all now awakening. The security officers jumped to their feet, hands moving to weapons. Jun watched. Then with something like pity, we mean no harm, he assured them, but we will not allow our sleeping brothers and sisters to be threatened. Your council has decisions to make. Hana stared at the growing armada outside. What happens now? Jun turned back to face them, his expression serious but not unkind. Now you carry a message back to your council. After 250,000 years of silence, humanity wishes to talk. The Grand Council chamber erupted into chaos. Representatives from the 12 dominant species shouted over one another, some standing on their seats, others pounding their appendages against the ancient wooden tables. At the center of the storm stood Hana, exhausted after her journey from Sol system, but determined to deliver her report accurately. Silence! High Councillor Rin smashed a ceremonial gavel against the stone podium. The sound echoed through the chamber, temporarily quieting the uproar. We will have order in these proceedings. Commander Tay of the Draken Imperium rose slowly from his seat. His scaled skin glistened under the chamber lights, and his eyes, vertical slits of deep amber, fixed on Hana with cold calculation. Let me understand this clearly, he said, his voice deceptively soft. You claim that not only have you discovered functional human technology, but that this technology includes thousands of automated warships scattered throughout our galaxy. Hana nodded firmly. That is correct, Commander. The vessel I boarded was over 3 kilometers in length, with capabilities far beyond our current understanding, and according to its guardian, it represents only a fraction of their fleet. Gaksha murmurs swept through the chamber. Tay's expression hardened. This is precisely why the Draken have advocated for military control of abandoned systems, he declared. While we argued policy, an existential threat activated under our very noses. Representative Dai of the Tauri Collective stood in opposition. The human guardian specifically stated they mean no harm. They only awakened because we entered their system. And you believe the word of a machine? Tay scoffed. A relic programmed by a species extinct for 250,000 years? Jun is not merely a machine, Hannah interjected. He's a digitized human consciousness, as are all the Guardians aboard their ships. This revelation sent another wave of commotion through the chamber. Electronic consciousness transfer had been theorized by Council scientists, but never successfully implemented. The technological implications alone were staggering. From the shadow of the chamber's upper tier, a figure moved forward that had remained silent until now. Elder Sue of the Elindri rarely spoke during council proceedings, preferring to observe. The ancient being's translucent skin seemed to capture and reflect the chamber's light as she glided toward the speaking platform. The room fell silent. The Elindri were the oldest species in the council, respected for their wisdom and historical knowledge. "I must speak," Sue said, her voice gentle but carrying to every corner of the vast room. "What Science Officer Hana has discovered forces a confession long overdue." She closed her large, luminous eyes briefly before continuing. "The Elindri encountered humanity before, not 250,000 years ago, but 255,000 years ago. And what Officer Hana reports is true. Human technological advancement had reached levels that frightened us," gasps echoed through the chamber. The Elindri had never admitted fear of any species. "We did not act alone," Sue continued, "but with the consensus of the elder species who preceded this council. We deliberately obscured records of human capabilities. We encouraged the narrative of their extinction rather than acknowledge the truth that they had achieved technological transcendence beyond our understanding." Commander Tay's scales darkened with anger. "You deliberately withheld critical security information?" "We sought to prevent exactly the reaction you now display, Commander," Sue replied calmly. Humanity's rate of advancement was unprecedented. In barely 10,000 years, they progressed from primitive tool use to technologies that approached the theoretical limits of physics. They were not aggressive expansionists, but their very existence threatened the established order. "High Counselor," Rin leaned forward. "And now? What threat do they pose now?" "That," said Sue, "is what we must determine." While the Council debated, activity throughout the galaxy accelerated. In distant, forgotten outposts, ancient machinery hummed to life. Orbital platforms that had masqueraded as asteroids or small moons for millennia revealed their true nature. Hidden beneath gas giants and buried within hollow comets, humanity's sleeping sentinels awakened. Aboard Eternal Vigilance, Jun observed it all through the vast network connecting the human fleet. He sensed each ship's consciousness as it rejoined. The collective, millions of digitized human minds returning to awareness after eons of dormancy. "Status report," he requested, addressing the ship's central AI. "Fleet awakening at 87% completion," came the response. "Historical database access successful at 347 Council locations." Jun nodded with satisfaction. While the Council argued, human AI constructs had infiltrated information networks across countless worlds, gathering intelligence about the current political landscape, technological capabilities, and cultural developments. Not to prepare for war, but to understand what humanity would be facing upon their return. The most critical information concerned the sleeping humans beneath Europa's ice. 20 million souls in stasis, preserving the biological diversity and cultural heritage of Earth. Unlike Jun and the other Guardians, they remained fully human, unmodified, vulnerable, precious. On the Draken flagship Inevitable Conquest, Commander Tay reviewed battle plans with his senior officers. He had not waited for Council authorization. 6 battle groups, nearly 30% of the Draken fleet, had already been dispatched towards Sol system. "The Council will debate until the stars burn out," he told his captains, "while we act to protect the galaxy from this ancient threat." His second-in-command looked uncertain. "But Commander, if these human ships are as advanced as reported—" "Reports exaggerate." Tay dismissed the concern with a wave. "These are ancient systems, regardless of their original capabilities. Our modern weapons will make quick work of them." Across the galaxy, the pieces moved into position. The Draken fleet accelerated toward Sul, while in the council chamber, the debate raged on. Elder Su revealed more of the long-hidden truth about humanity's capabilities, while Commander Tay's allies pushed for immediate military action. And deep within Europa's ice, automatic systems began the careful process of reviewing stasis pod integrity, preparing for the possibility that after 250,000 years of dreamless sleep, the time for humanity's biological children to awaken had finally arrived. The most ancient conflict in the galaxy, not between species, but between fear and understanding, was about to play out among the stars once more. The bridge of the Draken flagship, inevitable conquest, hummed with nervous energy as the fleet approached Sol system. Commander Tay stood with hands clasped behind his back, watching the tactical display. 6 battle groups, nearly 400 warships, moved in tight formation, weapons charged and shields at maximum, entering outer system boundary in 3 minutes, announced the navigation officer. No sign of defensive response. Tay's scaled lips curved into something resembling a smile. Perhaps the Council's fears were exaggerated after all. His second-in-command, Lon, looked less certain. The human ships have stealth capabilities we've never encountered before. They could be... They're ancient relics, Tay cut him off. Impressive. For their time, perhaps, but no match for modern Draken firepower. As they crossed the invisible boundary marking the edge of Sol system, all seemed quiet. Neptune's blue sphere appeared serene on their long-range scanners. No sign of the massive dreadnought reported by the Council survey team. Continue toward the inner system, Tay ordered. Primary target is Europa. If these humans have preserved specimens of their species there, we cannot allow them to awaken. The fleet accelerated inward, passing Uranus without incident. Tay began to relax. Perhaps the human ships had fled or gone dormant again. Perhaps... Commander! The sensor officer's voice cracked with alarm. Multiple spatial distortions forming around the fleet. The tactical display erupted with warning indicators. As dozens, then hundreds of objects materialized around the Drakon formation. Not from behind or ahead, but from directions that defied conventional space. Ships seemingly folded into existence from dimensions beyond normal perception. Impossible, whispered Lon. They're using physics we don't understand. The human vessels, varied in size and configuration, but all shared the same dark, light-absorbing hull material. They positioned themselves with impossible precision. Each Draken ship now surrounded by 3 or 4 human vessels. Weapons free, shouted Tay. All ships, open fire. The Draken fleet unleashed its arsenal. Plasma torpedoes, graviton beams, and quantum disruptors lashed out at the human ships. But something extraordinary happened. The energy weapons simply disappeared upon contact with the dark hulls. Not absorbed, not deflected, just gone, as if they'd never existed. They're not even raising shields, the weapons officer reported, in disbelief. Before Tay could issue new orders, the human ships responded. Not with weapons, but with something far more sophisticated. Waves of blue energy washed over the Drakon vessels. Systems blinked out across the fleet, weapons, engines, and shields disabled in seconds. On the bridge of inevitable conquest, consoles went dark. Emergency lighting cast red shadows across the faces of the stunned crew. Backup systems failing, reported an officer. Life support and artificial gravity still operational, but nothing else responds. Tay slammed his fist against a dead console. This is impossible. A soft chime echoed through the bridge, followed by a voice, calm, measured, distinctly human. Commander Tay of the Drakon Imperium. Your aggressive action against Sol system has been contained. Your ships are disabled but undamaged. Your crews are unharmed. We could have destroyed your entire fleet with minimal effort. Remember this. The main view screen flickered to life, showing a human male. Like Jun, he appeared solid and real despite being a digital construct. I am Quan, Guardian of Mars. I speak on behalf of the Vigilance Fleet. Tay straightened, refusing to show fear. What have you done to my ships? A temporary measure, Quan replied. Your systems will be restored once we've concluded our conversation, and you've departed our territory. The Draken Imperium acknowledges no territorial claims from extinct species, Tay growled. Quan smiled slightly. Yet here we are, not extinct, merely evolved. With a gesture, Quan changed the display to show the full extent of the human fleet, now surrounding the Drakon forces. For every Drakon ship, there were now 10 human vessels, and these were just the ships that had chosen to reveal themselves. Your council records contain many inaccuracies about humanity, Quan continued. Some deliberate, some born of ignorance. Let me clarify our history. The screen showed images of ancient Earth, cities, technology, and finally, the Great Schism that had defined humanity's future. Factions arguing over the path forward, biological purists who wanted to remain human, transhumanists who sought to merge with machines, and digitalists who believed consciousness could exist without physical form. We stood at the precipice of civil war, Quan explained. A conflict that would have destroyed everything we'd built. Instead, we found compromise. The images showed the construction of the stasis chambers beneath Europa's ice, millions of humans choosing suspended animation, preserving biological humanity in its pure form. Another sequence showed the uploading process, human consciousness transferred into digital substrates, freed from physical limitations. Those who wished to transcend physical form left this dimension entirely, Quan continued, but not before establishing the Vigilance Fleet. Guardians like myself, digitized humans who chose to remain, protecting both our sleeping biological cousins and the memory of what humanity had been. Tay studied the images with growing unease. And now? What do you want now? The same thing we've always wanted, Quan replied simply, to be left in peace. The screen shifted again, showing a transmission being broadcast simultaneously to every world in Council space. This message is being delivered to all species of the Galactic Council, Quan announced. For 250,000 years, humanity has slumbered. Content to watch the galaxy's evolution from the shadows. We have not interfered in your wars, your politics, or your development. We have taken no territory, claimed no resources beyond our original home. His expression hardened slightly. But we will not allow threats to our existence. The Sol system and all human installations throughout the galaxy are sovereign territory. The biological humans preserved on Europa will soon awaken, and they will require a home. Our ultimatum is simple. Recognize our sovereignty and the protected status of human territories, or face technological responses your civilizations cannot match. Aboard inevitable conquest, Commander Tay watched with clenched fists as Quan delivered terms that would forever change the balance of power in the galaxy. Return to your council, Quan concluded. Tell them humanity does not seek conflict. We have existed alongside you for 250,000 years without incident. But know this, the awakening cannot be reversed. Humanity has returned to the galactic stage. As the message ended, the Drakon ship's systems suddenly restored themselves. Engines, weapons, communications, all functioning perfectly as if they had never been disabled. Tay stared at the tactical display, now showing his mighty fleet completely surrounded by vessels of incomprehensible power. Your orders, Commander? Asked Lon quietly. For perhaps the first time in his military career, Tay chose prudence over pride. Set course back to Council space, he ordered. Maximum speed. The Grand Council chamber had been redesigned for this historic occasion. The traditional circular arrangement remained, but a new section had been added, an area dedicated to the newest member species. Light streamed through the crystal dome ceiling, bathing the gathered representatives in a warm glow as they waited anxiously for the session to begin. High Councillor Rin entered along with the senior representatives from each of the 12 dominant species. Following them was a figure that drew every eye in the chamber, the human guardian Quan, his holographic form now housed in a sleek mobile unit that allowed him to move freely among the physical beings. But it was the figure behind Quan that caused a collective intake of breath. A biological human, not a digital construct, walked into the Grand Council chamber for the first time in 250,000 years. Mino stepped forward cautiously, his eyes taking in the assembly of alien beings with a mixture of wonder and apprehension. He was young by the standards of his time, only 35 when he had entered stasis. His dark hair was cut short, his build athletic beneath the simple white garment that was the uniform of all newly awakened humans. Representatives of the Galactic Council, announced Rin, her voice carrying throughout the chamber. "Today marks a historic moment in our shared history. We welcome both Guardian Quan, representative of the Vigilance Fleet, and Mino, first awakened of biological humanity." Mino bowed slightly, following the protocol that had been explained to him during the weeks of preparation. The fact that he stood here at all was remarkable, the first of millions in the awakening process that had begun beneath Europa's ice. "Thank you for this welcome," Mino said, his voice steady despite his nerves. "I speak for those of us who chose the long sleep, rather than transcendence. We are grateful to our guardian cousins who have watched over us through the ages." The formal greetings completed, the real business of the emergency session began. Elder Sue of the Elindri glided forward, her translucent form seeming almost as ethereal as Quan's holographic presence. "Before we proceed further," she said, "there is a matter of historical record that must be addressed." The chamber grew still. What followed was an unprecedented public confession, how the elder species, led by the Elindri, had deliberately erased humanity's true technological achievements from galactic history. "We recognized in humanity a potential that frightened us," Sue acknowledged. "Their innovation rate exceeded anything we had witnessed in 1 billion years of observation. While the Elindri took 50,000 years to develop interstellar travel, humans accomplished it in less than 500. Their mastery of artificial intelligence, consciousness transfer, and dimensional physics outpaced our greatest scientists." She turned to face Mino directly. "Rather than face the implications of such rapid advancement, we chose erasure. When humanity appeared to leave the galactic stage, we altered records to suggest technological limitation rather than transcendence. This deception has been maintained for 250,000 years, and for this, we offer our deepest apology." Mino nodded slowly, accepting the apology with grace. "The past cannot be changed, but perhaps we can build a better future through honesty." Quan stepped forward next. "With your permission, I would like to share humanity's true history." With a gesture from his holographic hand, the chamber darkened and filled with three-dimensional images. Earth as it had been in humanity's golden age, a gleaming blue-green jewel orbiting a yellow star. 500,000 years ago, humanity faced its greatest crisis, Quan explained. Not external threats, but internal division. As our technology advanced, philosophical differences emerged about our species' future path. The images showed the three factions that had formed: biological purists who wished to remain unmodified humans, transhumanists who embraced cybernetic enhancements, and digitalists who believed consciousness could and should transcend physical form entirely. These differences threatened to trigger devastating civil war, Quan continued, but our leaders found a path forward that honored all choices. The next images showed the construction of the vast stasis chambers beneath Europa's ice, millions of unmodified humans entering suspended animation, choosing to skip ahead to a time when the galaxy might be more welcoming. Those who chose digital transcendence created two groups, Quan explained. The majority evolved beyond the constraints of normal space-time, entering a realm of existence we cannot fully describe with current language. But before departing, they helped establish the Vigilance Fleet, volunteers like myself who uploaded our consciousness into these forms, accepting the duty of guardian for those who slept. The council representatives watched in silence as humanity's true story unfolded before them, not a species that had gone extinct, but one that had followed three distinct evolutionary paths simultaneously. For 250,000 years we have watched the galaxy's development, Quan said. We have witnessed the rise and fall of empires. We have observed your wars and your peace treaties. We have seen species advance and others fade away, all while maintaining our vigil. Commander Tay, now stripped of his military authority, but present as the Dracon representative, leaned forward. And what are your intentions now? Your fleet has power that could dominate the galaxy. Quan smiled slightly. If domination were our goal, Commander, would we have waited 250,000 years to implement it? The Vigilance Fleet exists for protection, not conquest. Mino nodded in agreement. Those of us awakening from stasis, seek only what all species desire: a home, security, and the freedom to determine our own future. High Counselor Rin raised her hands for attention. Which brings us to the matter at hand. The proposal before this council is to formally recognize humanity, in all its forms, as a sovereign power, with Sol System and all verified human installations throughout the galaxy as protected territory. The vote that followed was not unanimous, but the outcome was never truly in doubt. The display of technological superiority demonstrated against the Draken fleet had made the pragmatic choice clear. Humanity would be recognized and welcomed back to the galactic community. As the session concluded, Mino found himself surrounded by curious representatives from various species. They had endless questions about Earth, about human biology, about what it felt like to skip across 250,000 years in what had seemed to him like a single night's sleep. The strangest thing, he told them, is knowing that everything familiar is gone. The Earth I knew, the people I loved, all dust for thousands of generations. Yet here I stand, talking with beings from across the galaxy as if it were the most natural thing imaginable. Later, alone in the human embassy that had been hastily established on the Council homeworld, Mino stood with Quan, watching the sunset over an alien horizon. "Was it worth it?" Mino asked quietly. "Your sacrifice is staying behind while the others transcended, watching over us all these years." Quan's holographic form smiled. "I've witnessed the birth and death of stars, seen civilizations rise from stone tools to starships. I've had 250,000 years to learn and grow in ways no biological human could experience. And now I've fulfilled my promise to see your safe return to the galaxy." Together they watched as a transport ship descended through the atmosphere, carrying the next group of awakened humans, eyes still wide with wonder at the new universe they had inherited. "They'll need guidance," Quan observed. Mino nodded. "And we'll need wisdom. Perhaps that's why the compromise worked. Each form of humanity preserved something essential. As darkness fell across the alien landscape, lights began to appear in the sky. Ships from across the galaxy, arriving for the formal recognition ceremony that would take place the following day. "A new era," said Quan softly. "For everyone," agreed Mino, as they watched the stars emerge. The same stars that had shone down on ancient Earth, now witnessing humanity's return to the galactic stage.